Oh man, that's a delicious cup of coffee. I'm just sitting here in this more than the score home on this big couch next to a fireplace with my best friend Matt Batson. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Brian, and hello, listeners. Welcome to our lovely home that is more than the score.
We hope you guys will be comfortable as you sit here and maybe enjoy some coffee or some hot cocoa or other fine assorted warm beverages as we talk about video games on this here podcast.
If you want a warm beverage, we have it. Doesn't matter what kind, as long as it's warm.
In this scenario, you can have any beverage you want because this is your home.
That's what
Let's
we
talk about
promise.
games.
That's what we promise to deliver at more than the score. A warm beverage.
Yes, we have a revolving tagline here at More Than the Score. We started out talking about video games, and music happened in the first episode, and the second episode, there we were like a soap opera for a few seconds. Now we're just all about warm beverages. So let's get going. Hope you took all that time to not listen to us. Grab yourself a warm beverage because we've got approximately 40 minutes of good stuff ahead. Because this week we talked to two cool cats from the middle of nowhere gaming team. The first one, we talked to Courtney Osborne. He's our fearless leader at MONG, and he talked about what game? Quick, rapid fire question.
The order 1842.
That would be a good weird year. There was some not much stuff happening in 1842, but nope. He talked about the order 1886.
Ah.
And I believe the correct answer response there is what is the order 1886? So
Well,
therefore you lose. So
well, sometimes the price is right, sometimes the price is wrong.
and now we're just mixing games and
Hey,
television shows.
I'll buy all the vowels.
Oh man, do you want to spin the wheel too? You want to spin the wheel?
No, I'd like to solve.
Oh damn it! And then the other one, who did we get for the other one?
Uh, you know, he was a former president, I
In
believe,
1842, I think.
in
Yeah.
1842. He led the war on Candyland, where the vicious terrorists they were, it's politics
It's
are
just all
it's
politics.
it's all politics. They're trying to make a movie, and you can't do that out of board games. Just look at Battleship. Just look at Battle.
Just yeah, truth, right? Taylor Kitsch, where the fuck up? But that guy, his name is Bat Matson.
Yes, Bat Matson will be here to talk about Dragon Ball XenoVerse.
Dragon Ball XenoVerse, yes. Bat Matson, if you might wonder, is the alter ego for our host, my co-host, Matt Batson. Sometimes
Plot twist.
sometimes I legitimately fuck up that name because it's so much fun to say Bat Matson.
I think that there's like a famous actor from a long time ago who was Bat Masterson or Matson, something like that. And
Hmm.
my science teacher, senior year, she was like, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" And I was like, "I think you're just saying my name backwards, lady." She's like, "No, this is a real
That's
person."
no, that's definitely what she was doing. I was gonna ask. That was gonna be my follow-up question here was if you ever got that in your life, because I can't be the first person because I'm not original with hardly anything.
Nope, not original at all.
No. Okay, so you've definitely gotten that before. That's good to know. Well, we've got a whole original episode of More Than Score podcast, but that is because
Oh,
of Matt Batson and Bat Matson and Courtney
that
Osborne. No thanks to me, Brian.
that that reminds me, we didn't do the Order 1886 joke with the black box. The
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, that was. Do you want to do it here?
Well, we're gonna get it in here now. So, can you pretend to be Courtney? Is that okay? Is that he's
Yeah.
not gonna sue us? So here I'll okay. So we're talking about the Order 1886. Doodle-doodle-doo. All right. So we're doing this interview. Uh, yeah. So one of the things I noticed about the game is that it's in a letterbox style, visual style. So you're cutting off bits at the top and bottom. Did that affect you at all? Do you think that took away from the game? Did it? say letterbox you in.
Oh, and then Courtney's like, yeah. The order is a good game and it's really good. I reviewed it. I'm the president of the team. It's
Go
really
me.
good. Go me.
That I think Courtney will be proud of
Insane.
your impression.
Insane.
Proud. Yeah, that felt really good. Thank you for reminding me of that because yeah, I definitely forgot. Man, I need to take better notes. This is killing
Uh,
me.
we don't need notes.
Yeah, where we're going, we don't need no stinking notes. Yeah. So anyway, oh, also while we're still in this intro area, and I feel okay talking about pretty much anything, um, since we talked about music in that first episode with Jake Decker, we were talking about Zeppelin and the Foo Fighters and the Godzilla soundtrack. Uh, this week, I had a very special moment in New York City. It's one of the few times that living here actually pays off, and it's really cool because I was at work listening to a couple songs from the new Death Cab album that comes out later this month, and I just wanted to read more press stuff about that album, and so I came across this article on this music website, and it's basically an editor's like top 5 like singles of the week, and the Death Cab one of the Death Cab songs is on there. But I found this other band called Wolf Alice, and I was just because I had time to kill at work, I was just listening to all the singles, and so I listened to this Wolf Alice song, and I was blown away. And so, like you do with anything that you like in the year 2015, the first thing I did was Google them. And then on Google, because everything is connected and we're all living on the grid, in the little search box, it gives you like details about the band, but then at the bottom, it has like upcoming tour dates, which is a really cool, handy feature. And this was Friday. So this was Friday afternoon.
Right.
And I saw this. And I Googled them, and on the tour dates, it says Saturday, February 28th, they're playing in Brooklyn, New York, and I flipped shit. I was like, that is so cool. I just found this band, and they're from the UK, and they just happen to be in Brooklyn the next day because, people tour here a lot because, all the music industry, half of it's here and half of it's in LA. So, excuse me. So I ended up rallying together a little group of friends, and we all went to go see them last night, and they are unfucking believable. So if there's a single music fan out there, again, they're called Wolf, like the animal, Wolf Alice, like Alice in Wonderland, Wolf Alice, and they just lit my soul on fire. They're so good. So I got to go see them, talk to them and stuff. So I just wanted to do my job of spreading good music, and that means you, Matt Batson, should listen to this band and tell me what you think.
Side note to our sidetrack.
Sidetracked.
Going back off of Death Cab for Cutie, there's a phenomenal YouTube drummer, Luke Holland. Have you seen this guy?
I've not.
He is ridiculous. He's the best drummer on YouTube. He's only 20. He's in his early 20s, and he's just like an amazing talent for his age. But he covered one of their songs, I'm pretty sure off of the new album, just last week, and it's a really good cover. He also does he's like been covering and like doing remixes of songs for like I don't know, since he maybe like 4, 5, 6 years, and
Wow.
yeah, and so you should check that out, and you should check that out too, listeners. Or if you like the heavy, scary music like I do, he does that too. He's in the band The Word Alive.
The Word Alive. Yeah, I might actually do that right after we finish this. Actually, we could take a pause now for station identification, and I'll go listen to this band. Beep.
Beep.
Not really. I'm still here. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll do that. I should describe if you like rock and roll. It's a Wolf Alice. It's very rock based. Loud guitars, heavy drums, really great bass player. But it's almost like early to mid '90s grunge. Less Nirvana, more like Hole. I hate referencing that because I hate Courtney Love, but her band, They actually have some pretty decent music, and they sound like that, except it has like a 2015 feel. There's no electronic stuff, which was great for me, but they have that like light, airy pop sound with like chainsaw guitars. It's great. Um, so I liked it a lot. Anyway, on that note, let's talk about the Order 1886.
Completely related.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's the first interview with me and Matt Batson and Courtney Osborne talking about the Order 1886.
Welcome back, Courtney. You reviewed the Order 1886.
Yes, I did.
And that seemed like a fun game according to you, but not according to a lot of other people. So, would you like to talk about some of the critical hate that this game has gotten?
Critical hate.
Yes.
That's putting it lightly. Well, one thing to, I guess, summarize what you're trying to say is that it's very popular to hate the Order 1886 right now. It's been super, super popular. Just about everybody and their mom, whether or not they played the game or not, has come out and said that it sucks, which is going a little bit far.
Yeah, it seems like ever since the whole like 5 hours thing came out, everyone was just ready to just like shit on this game from the
To write
start.
it off.
And it seems unfair. I mean, like I played a bit of it too, and it doesn't feel like a 5 that most publishers are giving this game.
Yeah, I'm very confused at the critical reception that it's received. So.
Yeah. But a lot of the concerns that they've criticized the game for is a lot of QTEs, the game's length, and just sort of the overall tone. A lot of publishers are calling the game boring. What do you think about that?
Well, that's their opinion, obviously. I can't say that their opinion's wrong because some people find as boring, other people find as exciting or fun or, a prime example is Game of Thrones. I know a lot of people who hate that show who think it's absolutely boring and too slow, but people like me are obsessed with it and absolutely love it. And that's the same case I could say for The Order. Well, some people say that the story is too slow, it's too monotonous, it doesn't do anything, it's not very fun. I say it's super exciting, it's full of deep lore. There were so many questions, so many mysteries in the game that I wanted to keep advancing. I wanted to keep finding out more. I really enjoyed it, and so I can't discredit their opinion, but I just think they're wrong, in my opinion, obviously.
Right. And another thing that they would talk about is it seemed like it was just your standard third-person shooter, and it seemed kind of generic in that way. But I know, like, I personally disagreed with that. I thought the controls were really great, and I also thought that the guns in the game, they had, like, some really unique weapons there. Can you talk a bit about, like, the different weapons that you can use in the game?
Yeah. Okay, so there are standard weapons. There's a shotgun or a few shotguns, there's a few different kind of pistols, there's a few different kind of rifles, but then they have the change up every once in a while. They have the scientific weapons. One of them, you're able to shoot a lightning bolt out, which can literally blow enemies' heads off because of all the electricity that it shoots. Or it could chain between a few enemies and just destroy them all really quickly. You don't have a lot of ammo on that kind of weapon, or else it would just be far too overpowered, obviously. It's like having a bazooka in a fight and just having unlimited ammo. That would be ridiculous. Let's see, the other weapon, my favorite one. Let me see if I can remember what it was called. Oh, the thermite rifle. The thermite rifle, it was really cool because you could shoot out this flammable dust, and you could just spray the air with it around enemies, and then you would shoot a flare, and it would just light all of that dust on fire, and it would just explode and burn. And so if you were quick enough at it, you could chain together this giant dust cloud, shoot a flare up there, and right after you shoot the flare, put another dust cloud next to it, shoot another flare, and then put another dust cloud next to it, and you could just light this entire area on fire, and it would just destroy every single enemy there. And it was just fucking awesome. So cool. Let's see. There was a few more other scientific-y, futuristic weapons at the time, but I can't really remember off the top of my head.
Do you
Oh,
think?
hey, Courtney. I'm gonna jump in here since
Okay.
I'm part of the show too. I
Hi,
thought I'd just
Brian.
see how long I could go without saying anything.
Hi,
So,
Brian.
hey, that worked out well. Uh,
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know about the lore that you mentioned. This alternate history with the Order and the Knights and all that stuff.
Okay. So, well, you don't figure out everything, obviously, because I still have questions. But there was a full breed of some kind of monster or whatever, and then like the humans and them apparently combined. I'm not sure if they mated or if it was like a strain in their blood, something different. I don't remember what, like it doesn't ever really explain that to you. But there's these half-breed lichens, which are werewolf type people, and they started destroying humanity. And in order to fight them, King Arthur, who is real in this game, starts the Order, which is an order of knights to fight against the half-breeds. And then they're on the brink of death, and they find something called black water, which is this liquid that they keep in these little flasks that they have on a necklace, each one of the knights, and it can heal any injury they have. So they could be shot in the heart, shot in the face or something, and as long as they can get a drink of that before they die, it will completely heal their injuries. And then the black water also allows them to basically live forever, like they don't age. So somebody like Galahad, the main character in the game, and all the people he knows, they've been alive for like hundreds of years. So like they're not 30 or 40 or whatever, they're like 200, like they're really old, yet they don't look very old. And so like there's that, and in order to fight back against the lichens, the Industrial Revolution happens much sooner in this world than it did in ours, so that's what allows them to make their scientific weapons and things like that. Nikola Tesla is one of the characters in the game, and he's one of the ones who helps you design these weapons and come up with different contraptions and things like that. And it's really funny because he has this rivalry with Thomas Edison, and there's a few lines here and there about their hatred for each other or their really weird respected friendship they have and stuff. It's just there's a whole bunch of deep lore and backstory stuff that you find out in little conversations and in the collectibles, because the game is littered with collectibles. I think there's like 115 or 120 or something like that collectibles in the game, and they vary from like photographs to newspaper clippings to like audio recordings like in BioShock, just different things like that. And if you take the time to look at all of them, read all of them, listen to all of them, like it starts filling in little environmental world information that you wouldn't have known otherwise. And it adds to the lore, it adds to the information you figure out, and that adds to the story.
Right, and so you said that, in your review it took you about 13 hours, and you told us that you platinumed the game. Is
Yep.
that included in that 13 hours?
Yes, I platinumed the game in my first playthrough. I took the time.
And
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm guessing that is due in large part because of all the collectibles, right?
Yes. The 13 hours is because I took my time exploring every environment, finding every collectible, going down every dead end, all that stuff, picking up every collectible, taking the time to read them and examine them and all of that. Some people have criticized the Order for being linear, and while it is very linear, I argue that's the only way to tell a good story is to be linear. But while at the same time that it's linear, there are other like places that you can explore to find collectibles. So like you may have point A where you start and point B where you need to get, and there's like one hallway and a stairway and then another hallway to get to point B, but there are side rooms. There may be a hallway that leads to one random side room. Like if you actually take the time, you know where you're going, and you decide to go off the beaten path, you'll find these collectibles, and it'll take you much more time to beat the game. Now, whether or not everybody wants to do that, that's up to them. I am one of the people who love exploring environments, who love searching every nook and cranny, and finding everything I can about a game or in a game.
Sure. Do you think that with the collectibles like that, where it's like BioShock, where it adds so much depth and information to the world, do you think that it's almost necessary as opposed to a game like Assassin's Creed, where you get collectibles but it doesn't really serve a big function?
Yeah, see, that's a good point and a good question, because I would much rather have collectibles like this than in a game like Assassin's Creed, where you're collecting Animus shards, or in Infamous, where you're collecting blast shards, like 300 blast shards. What the hell am I doing that for? It's not adding anything to the game other than making me spend more time in it. While a game like The Order, like I said, every single one of them adds something. There's a story about something. Like there's a story about, I believe it was Volkswagen back in this time period. I think it was a car maker, and it was talking about their second or third model and how it could get up to 15 miles an hour or something like that. And it was just like, oh man, thinking back all the way back then, we're used to these cars. It could go 300 miles an hour if you wanted to, but these cars, that was their extent, and it's just, I don't know, it just adds something to the atmosphere of the game. It's way cooler.
You mentioned the car thing, and obviously this game, it plays into history. It's an alternate history game. How big does it tie into history? You also mentioned Nikola Tesla and his battle with Edison. What other sort of Easter egg type things does it tie into history with?
Well, one of the big ones has spoiler. I can't talk about a spoiler, but there's a few prominent people in the UK and London from that time period who pop up in this game, and it's really interesting to see how they tie them in. So I can't really, like I said, can't mention who they are. And then, while it's not really talked about or acknowledged a lot, the whole order, the Knights of the Round Table, they're in this game in a certain fashion, and it's interesting to see the way they're tied together, the way they use the Knights of the Round Table in this game.
And with the setting in London and everything, does the story feel like it's a worldly story, or is all the stuff just taking place in London? You know what I mean? Does it present this whole Lycan thing as a global issue?
Yes. And I'm not gonna. That's another spoiler. I can't really touch on. This game is it's very story heavy.
Right.
Like a game like The Last of Us, how you wouldn't want to mention anything because that could ruin somebody's first playthrough by just mentioning the wrong thing because they would already know what's going to happen.
Sure.
And so I will say that it's more than just London, this game, and it just happens. This one happens to be in London, and it feels very London-y. They set it up to be just like London during the time period. However, it's the grand scheme of thing. The story is bigger than just London, and I could see the game, a sequel going in another direction in another area if they choose to.
And before Matt asks you about the sequel, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that there's a splendiferous spoiler cast for the Order on our website.
Yes, yeah, and we recorded a spoiler cast last week and released it on Friday. So if anybody wants to hear us talk about the story in more depth about all the different spoilers, go ahead and look that up. It was QuickTime Event episode 20, in case you wanted to know which one.
Also, before I talk about a sequel, I wanted to say Middle of Nowhere Gaming calls The Order 1886 very London-y.
Very London-y.
Yeah, that's a box quote. Very London-y.
But in terms of a sequel, I know you noted that you hope to see a sequel from them, and I wouldn't doubt that we would get one, considering I assume this game's going to sell pretty well despite some bad review scores. But would you want to see would you like to see more of these characters in this environment, or would you like to see like an order of maybe like a different country?
Well, okay. Again, this is
USA.
little bit
USA.
little bit spoilery, so I don't want to touch on
Yeah.
too much about this. I do want to see more of Galahad, the main character in this game. He's a badass. He's so cool. Really good character. And I think if they chose to go in a different direction, that would be a mistake, based on the story. So, while I would love to see them go to different countries, I think making a new main character would be a huge mistake. But then again, I've seen sequels do that, and it'd be just fine, and them tie in the main character some other way. So, I don't know.
Like some of these stories though, just the way, I don't know if it's just the origin stories and everything, but with the monsters versus like a group of people, it feels very European. Like if you think about like Van Helsing or like Underworld, like they fit very much in London or Europe as a whole.
Well, that's
At least
because
Western Europe.
they have much more of a history than places like the United States. The United States isn't very old.
Hey,
Or
I would like to
North America.
remind you that Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was the fucking best.
I have not seen that yet, and I want to still.
You should.
Abraham Lincoln can be the head of the American order.
And a note about this, a sequel or a possible sequel, I have no doubt that they're going to get greenlit for another game. It's a Sony exclusive game, and Sony doesn't cancel games or not make sequels on a really, really good one, especially a first-party game like this. We see games like Infamous 1 and Uncharted 1 and games like that were good at the time. They were okay, they weren't the best, and then they get the sequel and it just changes the entire game. The sequels were so much better than the first, and I can see that happening with this. This is one of those games.
How much trust there do you put into Ready at Dawn, since they have an established track record that they're going to come out with a sequel that does improve upon all those criticisms?
Well, Ready at Dawn's fairly fresh in the AAA console market, so this is their first foray into it, but they spend so much time on the world and the engine and the story and stuff. Like I have a hard time believing that Sony would say no, we don't want a sequel to this, because they spent so much money and so much time on this. Like they have a huge universe to fill, and even if they didn't want to go with a sequel story, they could go with a prequel. They could go with when King Arthur first founded the Order. They could do that, and it would be just as cool, because it would be them fighting against the Lycans at the very beginning, before the Blackwater, before the scientific weapons and all that. Like, it would be a really, really gruesome story, and I just think it would be fascinating to learn more about the universe at any time period they chose to make it in. Yes.
I agree. By the way, shout out for including Katy Perry's Left Shark in your review.
Yeah.
That was the highlight.
I finished up the Order 1886 late on a Saturday night, and I was so revved up after beating it. I was like, I have to write this review now. And so I just hunkered down at 2 in the morning and was like, I'm going to spend the next few hours writing this review. And I was like, okay, so everyone's been talking about the length it takes to beat the game, and it took me a long time to beat it, which is different from the initial reports about how long it took. And I was like, everyone's been talking about this, and I was like, I've got to include something else everyone talks about. What has everybody been talking about? Oh yeah, right. Katy Perry's Left Shark.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't play the game this weekend, because then you would have included the blue dress in there instead.
Oh god.
And that fucking thing.
You mean the white and gold dress?
I mean the black and blue.
No, it's white and gold,
white and
sir.
gold.
White and gold.
Science, guys.
Science.
Oh, that's awesome. Matt, do you have more questions?
I think we about covered it. We learned a lot today.
I want to ask Courtney, do you think in a sequel that multiplayer options would arise? Like, is that a direction you see them going?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm kind of curious as to whether or not that was something they wanted in the game like this, or if it took them so long to develop the engine and get everything right the way they wanted for this first game, and it was just maybe that was in the back of their minds. Like if we have enough time, we could do something, even if they say they didn't ever plan on it. Like they're gonna learn a lot from this game, a lot, and you can guarantee they're going to make some big changes for a sequel. And one of those I think would do them well would be if it's not multiplayer, then co-op. Include co-op in either the gameplay, like the campaign itself, or some sort of a horde mode. Like I think that would be super fucking cool to be able to pick two different knights of the order and just be dropped into a giant arena and have to fight waves of Lycans and waves of enemies with guns. Just normal enemies that you have to fight in this game. And that would definitely make the game better. And for those who don't enjoy the story the most in a game, that would add replay value for those people.
Sweet. That's
Yeah.
my official statement. Sweet. No,
Sweet.
that's one of the things. I haven't played the Order yet, and I'm not a huge multiplayer person, but I do enjoy co-op.
Yeah.
Couch co-op
Yeah.
is a big deal for me. So I thought that'd be sweet, especially with the story, and just like you said, like picking two knights that are just ultra badass. I thought the same thing with the Shadow of Mordor, if that could become a co-op
Yeah,
thing.
that would be
Having
fun.
two characters like that, almost dueling to see who could be like the most badass.
Who could slay the most of the Rooks?
Right. I thought that'd be cool.
That would be.
So we'll see what happens.
What if you just combine the games and make the co-op that way? You have you have one knight, you have Galahad and what's his name? Troy Baker.
Uh,
You just Troy Baker. It doesn't
yeah,
have
just Troy Baker. I think we need like a buddy cop movie, but it's a video game that's just Troy Baker and Nolan North.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd
that's
be
what
awesome.
Uncharted 4 will be.
Well, that's true. But no. What about this? What about a voice acting video game where you're a voice actor and you got to be the
Oh.
best, and the final bosses are Troy Baker and Nolan North?
And it's like a rock band game where you
Yeah,
have
it's like
mic.
SingStar where you
Yeah.
have notes perfectly.
This is some great material we're coming
This
up
is-
with.
Gone off the rails a little.
Sidetracked. It's a
Yep.
thing. Oh god.
So,
All right, Courtney. I'm all out of questions. I'm gonna stop talking now.
all right. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. You bring the best games, so we'll keep bringing you back as long as you review that stuff.
Well,
So-
I don't think you guys will have me on for like another month now. I think you have a few weeks without me. It'll
That's
be
good.
hard.
You'll always be in our hearts.
Oh, okay.
We'll
Well, as
get-
long as I'm there. But yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right, man. Yep, we appreciate it. Thanks again, Matt. Send us off.
Send us off. Oh, off into the next, or just off?
Yeah, just
leave it.
off. Come on, man. This is episode 3.
I've never done this show before.
I clone Matt each week, so it's always new for him.
Oh,
Yeah.
a new Matt. That's a interesting way of doing it.
And then I kill him afterwards. So
Keeps it fresh. No witnesses.
yeah.
Okay.
But,
All right, Courtney.
Yeah, thanks for being on, and with that, we will bid you adieu, good sir.
Thank you once again, guys.
Matt, the fuck is this, man? You dragged me out. We had our intro, and now you dragged me into this interview.
Well, I have very important stuff to talk about.
I guess so. I guess we're here to talk about Dragon Balls. We couldn't have done that in the intro, but you're stealing space from everybody else to talk about this game. But I guess as a host, you're allowed to do that kind of thing.
Dragon Balls are very important, so I just had to do this.
What role does a Dragon Ball play in the circle of life? That's what I want to know.
Well, it actually, at the end of life, you find them, then you just bring yourself back to life. So it starts it over.
Oh.
So it's, yeah.
Interesting. So it's
Yes,
like the fountain of youth.
basically.
That's good to know. It's too bad Ponce de Leon never found Dragon Balls.
That would be a
Could've-
great crossover.
Right? It could be
Ponce de
like
Leon.
Uncharted and Dragon Balls.
Oh my God.
I think we just sold a multi-million-dollar game idea.
Anyone can take this idea as long as this game is made.
All I want is a credit at the very end of the game. That's all I
Or
want.
you can just be an NPC just
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
I'd be fine with that too. Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb, he was a Game Informer at the time, but he was an NPC in an infamous Second Son,
Hmm.
and he was like a Russian gangster, and he got a big kick out of killing himself all the time. So I think that'd be great. But we're gonna talk about Dragon Ball XenoVerse.
Yep, we are.
All right, talk about it. Go.
Uh, so Dragon Ball XenoVerse is a 3D Dragon Ball fighting game, and so it's similar to like the Budokai Tenkaichi series. And if you've listened this far, you probably know what I'm talking about. If this all sounds like gibberish to you, then this might not be the game for you. But anyways, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, it has a unique story which is different from most Dragon Ball games in recent years, and it's unique, but it's also not. And it goes through the timeline because your role in the game is you're a time patroller, and your job is to patrol time, and you have to stop bad guys from.
That's a good title for
It
a
is a
time
good title.
controller. Or yeah, you know what I'm saying. Keep going. Sorry.
And you got to go back in time and fix events that bad guys have changed. And so it's giving you this unique way to visit the familiar story of Dragon Ball Z, and it does it pretty well, and it introduces some new characters, and they're okay, but the familiar cast they're used to, it's not the original voice cast, it's the voice cast for the redone version of it. So some people are changed, but everyone did a really good job, and so the characters are great and familiar.
Hmm.
And it's just a really fun game. It's also a super super meaty game. I'm like,
Really?
yeah, it's surprising. I'm like well over 30 hours, maybe 40 hours, and
Hmm.
the like total percentage from everything you can do, I think it still says like around 30% done.
Right.
So
Huh.
yeah.
That's quite a bit. Is it just a matter of like how does the game measure completion? Because obviously there's percentage for the story, but are there like the typical collectible type thing,
Yeah, there's
or is there something some other element?
you have your main story, and then you have your collectibles, and then also you have a wide variety of side quests that range in
Mm.
difficulty. And so
Okay.
it'll like there's a section on the hub world that you can visit that has them, and then there's also people who would just show up and visit you, and they'll
Hmm.
ask you to do something. And it gets odd when that happens when it's someone uh, like Frieza, or no, Frieza doesn't show up, but like Cell, who murdered a bunch of good and innocent people. He just shows up in this world
Huh.
and asks you to help him out. It doesn't make much sense, but that's the game.
Everybody needs a hand from time to time, you
Everybody
know?
needs a hand. And yeah, and there's also going off of the side quest, there's a mentor system which was really cool, and it does a lot of fan service where like one of my favorite characters is Vegeta, and you can meet up with him, he'll offer to be your mentor, you'll spar with him, train with him, he'll teach you all these crazy new techniques, and he'll take you on missions. And in the end you can like it's almost like a persona like social link. You can max out the
Oh, cool.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then by the
Do
end of
you
that, oh, go ahead.
do you derive some kind of perk from maxing out one of those relationships?
Yeah, that's what I was going into. You get it's called Z Assist, and it's whenever you use their ultimate attack, which they teach you at the very end, they'll actually like show up and help you with it, which
Oh,
is
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So it's like a WWE match where you
Yeah,
are
they just
somehow
come
in
in
the
and
cage, and then you,
interfere.
you pull in a teammate somehow, and then yep.
They just hit
Well,
him
that
with
sounds
a
like
chair.
cheating, Matt. That
Well,
sounds like cheating.
uh,
Whatever
rest.
works though. So, is there like for the main story here? I don't know how spoilery this could get, but is there one like main villain? I guess.
This could get spoilery. There's
Okay, let's
you're
not.
you're introduced to like first because Future Trunks is the guy who's sending you like on these missions. He's the one surveying it. He's in charge of the time patrollers.
Hmm.
And so he at first he's just like sending you back in time because things are going out of whack. And then after a little while you find some there's like a recurring theme where you'll notice someone and then eventually you'll confront this pair of bad guys, but eventually that takes a plot twist, so I'll leave that
Okay,
for you to find out. But yeah,
that's fair.
there's like an overarching bad guy.
Okay. So you talked about the Z assist and how it's cheating. What are the other like battle mechanics? What is this? What's the game like? If you had to describe like a fight.
Yeah, so it's very, very fast-paced, very flashy, a lot of lasers and kamehamehas firing everywhere.
Mm,
And
lasers.
uh, and it's like I said earlier, it's a 3D, so it's not like Street Fighter where you have two like facing each other and it's a flat
Hmm.
plane. But it's more like third person, but the camera will move around. And but the actual fighting itself, you have your weak attack button, your heavy attack button, and just normal like Kai blasts.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, you have special moves, which is like the Kamehameha and like going Super Saiyan and stuff like that. And so the normal stuff apart from the special moves, they're all fine and you can get by using those. And but those aren't what make characters feel different.
Hmm.
So you can use those, but like when you're using those, everyone will feel the same. And but the special attacks are what really like make the game unique and stuff like that. But where strategy comes into it, because it's definitely not like an Evo esports level fighting game
Right. Right.
in terms of its mechanics, but where strategy comes into it is you have 3 meters. You have your health, your energy, and your stamina. And so what's important is managing those because like without stamina you can't block, without energy you can't use any of your special moves, and without health you're dead. So in different moves that you'll use, they'll play a part in the other meters.
Hmm. Hmm. Is there like an RPG system here as far as like upgrading characters or
Yes,
upgrading your character?
yeah, there's a leveling system, and every time you level up, you get different attributes. So one
Okay.
attribute can like make your health go up, one can make like your basic attack, like just punching people
Hmm.
in the face. That'll go up.
Gotcha.
Shooting laser beams, that'll go up. It's stuff like that. And so you also have to manage what you're gonna level up, because you could just like completely stack one side of your character and you'll be super weak, or you can just build a nice all-around guy who's not great at everything,
Right.
but still good.
Right. Right. And you mentioned the fan service a minute ago with one of the things. As someone, so you grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yeah.
As a lifelong Dragon Ball fan, how does this game do in that category?
It does great. It certainly makes this Dragon Baller happy. Uh,
Nice. Dragon Baller.
that
I
I'm
just have this image of this like super swagged out guy just loving Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Baller.
uh
Sorry,
no, it's
sidetracked.
fine. That's what we want to be. We want to be sidetracked.
We should rename this podcast Sidetracked.
That would be a good. It'll just turn into sidetracked by like when we get into like the 20s in episode
That's
count.
true. Yeah, we'll let that happen. We'll reformat the podcast.
Hmm. And what it'll be is bring on someone to talk about their game and then not ask them any questions about the game.
Oh, actually, on a side note, since we're sidetracked, I thought about doing that, about getting someone to come on to talk about like some little indie game,
Hmm.
like maybe Lou with like Kick and Finnick or whatever that crappy thing was called, and then just not talk about the game at all. But then, we've been busy, so.
So Lou, you played Kick and Finnick. So kicks, how about those? What's your favorite type of kick, Lou?
Yeah, what do you, I prefer the drop kick.
Yeah.
I like to run up. And just,
Some people are roundhouse kind of people, but
I
that's
mean, if you have the American pants on, you gotta get the roundhouse in there.
hmm
So Dragon Balls. We were talking about
Oh, fan
you
service.
with the fan service, yeah.
Yeah. Another big thing is like the loot system is super addictive, and it's not just like the loot will add to your stats. The like armor and like clothes you wear, they'll
Mhm.
add to your stats, and but also there will be armor clothes based off of characters you already know. So like I'll be like, oh sweet, that's Piccolo's cape. I want that, even though it's bad. And so
Right.
you'll just it's just like I know they put out a number for how many, but there's like a gigantic amount of like clothes and accessories, and it's just like hard to keep track of all of them and which ones you want, and they're all like based off a character you love, so it really makes like the loot system more addictive and also plays into fan service.
At any point with the loot like that, have you chosen to wear something that is inferior stats wise just because it's more special to you?
Um,
Like if it's like a favorite character's
yeah,
stuff.
sometimes like I've been wearing one of my favorite characters is Trunks, and I've just been wearing his like Capsule Corp jacket, even though
Mm.
it's not nearly as good as something else that I could get, but I just don't care to change it, just because why not? Also, I've been wearing sunglasses the whole time, just because they look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they give you a scouter at the beginning of the game, which like tells like power levels and useful stuff like that. And I'm just like, no, I'll
Mhm.
just wear these sunglasses instead. They look cooler.
Nice. Nice. People always think about, like you gotta have the best armor, the best whatever.
Yeah, what about
Sometimes it's
looking the
kind of nice.
best?
You just want to be a Dragon Baller sometimes.
Hmm. All swagged out.
So swagged out, Dragon Baller swag. You mentioned to me that the end of the game sets up a possible sequel because everything is now a series.
Yes.
Can
Uh,
you elaborate without?
yeah, so I think it's very possible that there will be a sequel, not just because of the end of the game, but they don't really have an ongoing series. Like the last Dragon Ball game was Battle of Z, and before that was like I don't even remember. But they
Hmm.
used to have like long-running sequels like the Budokai series and stuff like that, and I feel like Xenoverse will be the next long-running series, and not just because of how it's set up, but also I think it's done pretty well critically. Uh, I know at least I spoke about its praise,
Hmm.
and I'm almost certain that it's gonna sell well because this game's had a lot of hype leading up to it. Especially considering I don't know where I was going with that, but uh,
You're fucking
it's
up, Matt. You're fucking up. I'm just kidding.
I, but it has had a lot of hype because everyone's been intrigued by like a new story and
Right.
character.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, that's one of those things. Like, it could be a series, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a continuous story. Do you think
yeah,
this is one of those things where there'll be a different game that follows in the same like format, but it's a non-joined story? Or do you
yeah.
think they could like continue the story in a
I think they could
way?
definitely continue the story because there's
Hmm.
there's some people left at the end of the game who are still kind of angry at you, and
I mean,
so
you're doing your job well.
you're doing your job well, but some people
Dragon Ball Z never seemed like a happy
no.
kind of show.
Yeah, the only time it was ever happy was when Goku decided to stay dead. That was the only time where no one messed with anything. And then the day that he came back from being dead, immediately met with an angry dude trying to destroy the world.
Of course.
Yep,
That's how they roll. Those angry dudes. They just
those
stay
Dragon
angry.
Ballers.
Those Dragon Ballers.
That's how the Dragon Balls roll.
How does a Dragon Ball roll? Is it just a perfect sphere? Does it roll with it? Is there no friction there? Like,
So
is it a smooth outside? Or is it kind of roughed up? Because dragons have like rough,
I
leathery hides.
I'd like to imagine that it's a nice smooth glossy sphere,
Hmm.
but it's they've been around for a long time. Could be rough. All the
They
wear and
might have some. They might have some moss growing on them,
Ooh, maybe
but maybe not because they say rolling stone gathers no moss.
a rolling Dragon Ball gathers a
A
little bit of
rolling
moss. That's
dragon. Well,
who knows.
I guess we'll find out if this game rolls into another game. We'll see if there's any moss on it.
Ooh, that's a
Oh,
good
I
segue.
think we're done.
And the moss obviously represents uh
We'll fill in that blank later. I guess we'll find out if there's any moss. Oh yeah, before we go, we should actually talk about what system did you play this on?
Oh, I played it on PlayStation 4, and also it's important to note that this is the first Dragon Ball game on this generation of consoles, and it looks really, really good.
Hmm.
Especially it's cel-shaded graphics, which has been like a staple of Dragon Ball games for a long time, but it still
Hmm.
looks really nice.
Did you have any kind of technical issues, or does it seem like they put together a pretty good engine?
Well, one thing, the game is based like off of their servers, and I know myself and Courtney have had troubles connecting to servers, but
Hmm.
that doesn't seem to affect much when I was not connected to servers. I was still able to play, like do online matches and do side quests
Interesting.
with other people online, but it wouldn't let me walk around the hub world with other people connected online, like it was just NPCs everywhere. So
Hmm.
I'm really confused what their whole server dilemma is. They also like sent out a message to everyone who had the game, like saying, "Sorry, you're experiencing server issues. We're trying to fix it." So obviously it is a problem, but it hasn't been affecting me that much. So I'm
All
not
right.
really sure what the servers do exactly if I'm still able to play online when I'm not connected.
Yeah, I don't know why it would segregate some features and others from each other, but I mean, I guess if it's not affecting your play, then it's not too bad of a problem. But that's good. That's good news. Also, shout out Cell Shaded Graphics, one of my favorite racing games of all time, Auto Modelista. If you remember that game, it was like 2005-ish.
I don't believe I've heard of it.
Oh, now I have to Google it. Hang on one second. See, I think it's a PlayStation 2 game or an Xbox game.
Hmm.
I might have played on PlayStation 2. Came out in 2002. Yeah. Uh, that's the only game I've ever been able to play with
Self
cel-shaded graphics and not just hate life. So I guess I'll stick away. I'll stay away from Dragon Ball Z, but hopefully it's pretty to everybody else. How does it look compared to the show itself and compared to the movies and stuff like that?
well, it definitely like looks weird compared to like hand-drawn
Hmm.
anime. But there's also they mix in anime cutscenes with the story, so that was always nice to see. But like how the cel shaded graphics work is like there's like some weird like shading like on the characters, so they always look like super shiny and
Oh,
glossy.
interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Good to know.
Good to
All
know.
right. So if you had to give your little final summary here, what would you say about playing Dragon Ball XenoVerse on the PlayStation 4?
It's good.
That's a good answer. All right,
Uh,
Matt. Unless you
but
have something real to say.
but I think Dragon Ball XenoVerse is probably the not probably it's easily the best Dragon Ball Z fighting game that we've had ever. It takes really good polished mechanics that you've seen in other Dragon Ball Z games, and it combines it with some really nice RPG elements and some like the loot system was really addictive,
Mm-hmm.
and so it just really makes you want to play the game, and it has a lot of game there for you to play, which is really different from what we've seen in the past. So it's a nice change of pace, and it's the best experience that you can get from a Dragon Ball Z game.
Cool. High praise. I'm happy for you, Dragon Ball fans, you Dragon Ballers.
You Dragon
You
Ballers.
you got yourselves a good one here.
This one's for all the Dragon Ballers. Put your hands in the air. Give me your energy. You don't get that. They get it. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, I was.
It wasn't. It wasn't sexual. I promise.
I mean, it kind of sounds a little bit, but hey, but it's also Dragon Ball Z, so anything goes.
Anything goes.
All right, Matt. It was good talking to you. I'll talk to you again in like 3 seconds.
I'll see you then.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye. Well, that guy, he sounded pretty sexy, don't you think, Brian?
Well, I mean, he was the president in 1842. He's got some charm.
I believe that's correct. You know, he led the war on terrorism against Candyland.
The war on terrorism against Candyland, because Candyland is a sack full of terrorists.
Yep, sack full of terrorists.
If I could name any region of the Candyland board, I would make a joke right now, but I'm drawing a big blank.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure if I've ever played Candyland.
Oh, man.
I'll pretend
I played.
I have.
I played many times. You could say that Chutes and Ladders and Candyland were really my introduction into gaming, and it's just grown from there.
Yeah, Chutes and Ladders is definitely a big influence for me too, so that's a thing we have in common.
I was a decent cheater at Chutes and Ladders.
Decent cheater. Like,
Yeah.
decent as like a decent person who cheats, or like you were pretty okay at cheating?
I would say that when I cheated, I would get away with it more often than not, although the ratio was like a 60-40 thing, so sometimes I get my shit called. But lots of times I would scoot up, like one little thing just so I could go up the ladder instead of staying there. So it's an art form.
If someone calls you out, you just, I don't know how to count.
Yeah, I would just say I miscounted, and then you just get the general confusion of like, oh, but where did I start? I thought I started right there. And then, no, you started here, and I was like, I'm pretty sure you're cheating now.
And you accuse
That's
them.
the move.
Flip the script.
That is the move. Yep. Anytime you're caught cheating, you just claim the other person's cheating.
Yep. Just like.
Then you're
just
both
like
terrible.
someone calls you out for farting in a room, just you gotta throw the blame somewhere else.
Yep, that's how it rolls. You
Chutes
never
and
take.
ladders and passing
And
gas.
farting.
Same thing.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, so those are 2 great interviews. We talked about the Order 1886 with Courtney. We talked about Dragon Ball XenoVerse with Bat. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. We got to talk about Auto Modelista for a minute. That was pretty cool. That was a throwback to my youth. We talked about some other stuff. I don't remember any other highlights because it's really a blur because it's all highlights at this point. We're in episode 3 now, so we're really hammering down the details.
More than the score is basically like taking ecstasy. I mean, it's a great time, but you just don't really know what happened.
Yeah, I have so much fun that I black out. I don't remember what happens on the show until it's up on our fine podcast services like iTunes. And some of the apps that you can find podcasts, or YouTube, or on our website, middleofnowheregaming.com. Until it's up on those things, I forgot what happened.
And
that's how good it is.
By the end, when you're done listening to it, you wake up in a ditch somewhere you don't know, and maybe you have some regrets, but one thing is for sure, that was a great show.
It was a great show, and this has been a great show, and now I think we should wrap it up. Because, too much of a good thing, man.
Yeah.
Kills you.
Kills you.
Just like ecstasy. So.
Don't do ecstasy, kids.
Yeah. That's what you should take away from all this. But, so next week. Go ahead. You explain.
Yeah, next week we're still in the planning processes. We'll probably talk more about Candyland strategies. But other than that, we will let you know what games will be coming during the week if you follow us on Twitter. But other than that, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. So this episode is out on Monday, March 2nd. I think that's how calendars work. And then so the next episode will be out 7 days after that, which would be March 9th, which is the day before my birthday. Also, side note, and I kind of feel bad because instead of mentioning that band in the intro, I should have mentioned this there, and then the band in the outro now. But I get my priorities backwards sometimes. I was just gonna say today, Sunday, when we're recording this, is my mom's birthday. So I'd like to say happy birthday to my mom.
Happy birthday, Mom.
And I'm sure she would say thank you if she were here to say, "Oh, thank you, Matt Madsen." That's not how my mom talks. But the only thing that reminded me of that is that next Tuesday, the day after the next episode comes out, is my birthday. So we'll be having a special birthday-themed episode. And by that, I mean I'll just be eating cake while we're doing the episode.
Yes.
I'll go ahead. I'll send you yours so you can eat cake too.
Oh, okay.
And then whoever we choose to review ours will watch us eat cake or listen to us eat cake, whatever happens on here. So yeah.
They won't say anything. They won't talk about their game. They'll just listen to us eat cake.
Yeah, they won't even notice. They won't care. So come back every Monday. You can find us on all the usual places, like I mentioned earlier, YouTube or middlenowheregaming.com or your podcast services, especially iTunes, anything that draws stuff from iTunes. I use the Overcast app for my podcasts. I know lots of people use the generic Apple podcast app, which is great as well. It does its job. It plays MP3s that are in podcast form.
Correct.
Yes, and if you want to send us an email, you and I never check this email, so we might have gotten stuff by now, and I just don't know, but you can do so.
That's Courtney's job. He'll tell us.
Yeah, it's true. I'm assuming that he would tell us. He's a nice guy.
He's just like, what is this more than the score? I don't get it.
He's been on here twice now, so he should know.
Eh.
Like, he has a pretty good batting average of being on our show.
Mhm.
But yeah, you can email us at contact.mong@gmail.com, or you could tweet at us at mong.com, spelled out DOTCOM. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/mongnetwork, and there's a bunch of cool other videos too, other podcasts, QuickTime events. This past week, they did a spoiler cast for the Order 1886, so if you've played the story and you want to learn more about what we thought about it and stuff, I'm not on there, you're not on there, but other people are on there. Courtney's on there, so you can do that. That's all on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram by searching for Middle of Nowhere Gaming. Just come to our website, hang out,
See what
comment on
happens.
some stuff. Yeah, see, there's some stuff pops up sometimes. You won't get any pop-up ads. That's for damn sure.
That's for sure.
There's 0 pop-up ads.
And
So we're not about
definitely-
that life.
Definitely comment on stuff. We like when you do that.
Yeah, we'll comment back. So come to middleofnowheregaming.com for all the latest editorials, news, and reviews. And let's sign it off.
Don't forget about our Twitch Mong Plays. Brian was playing NHL with.
I would say it was less playing and more being an active dummy. I got railed pretty hard this morning in NHL 15.
If you really want to see Brian get railed hard, tune in next Sunday when Brian will be playing some more NHL. And that's Mong Plays on Twitch.
Yeah, every Sunday around 9:30, 10:30, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can catch us on there. Or, we'll do the archival thing too, so you can watch me get railed on demand. That's totally up to you. We prefer if you do it live so you can chat with us, and I will talk to you while I'm getting railed and let you know how the experience goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time. Matt, you should do some of your Twitch streaming yourself. Just saying.
I'll find out what I can Twitch stream.
You could Twitch stream some Dragon Ball XenoVerse because it seems like you enjoyed it a lot, and it seems like a pretty good game.
It does seem like a pretty good game.
But now, I think it's time we bid all the viewers farewell. My warm beverage has been emptied. My goblet is done.
You don't have to.
So
go
I'm
home.
gonna.
but you can't stay here.
That is a great, great quote. Semisonic should pay us some money for that one. I love that song. Yep. So if you want to find Matt Batson on Twitter, you can find him at
_M Batson.
_M Batson. You can find Courtney, who was here earlier, at Osborne _2009. And you can find me, Brian, at El Padre Oso,
The Papa Bear.
the Papa Bear. So that'll be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. This is More Than the Score podcast, and we will talk to you next week. So long, Matt.
So long, Brian.